I need to tell you about the moment my life fell apart in front of 200 people. About how the happiest day of my life became the worst in a matter of seconds. About how the woman I thought I knew turned out to be a complete stranger. But first, I need to tell you about our relationship so you understand why I never saw this coming. My name is Ryan, and I'm 32 years old. I was engaged to a woman named Megan for 2 years before our wedding day. We'd been together for 4 years total. I thought I knew everything about her. I thought we were soulmates. I thought our wedding would be the beginning of our forever. I met Megan at a friend's birthday party when she was 26 at the time, working as a marketing coordinator for a tech company. She had this smile that lit up the room and this laugh that made everyone around her want to laugh too. I was drawn to her immediately. We talked all night at that party about our jobs, our dreams, our favorite movies. The conversation flowed so naturally, it felt like we'd known each other for years. I asked for her number before I left and texted her the next morning asking if she wanted to get coffee. Our first date turned into dinner, which turned into drinks, which turned into talking until the restaurant closed. I knew by the end of that night that she was special, different from anyone I'd ever dated. We made it official after about a month. Exclusive, committed, heading towards something serious. Megan was everything I wanted in a partner. She was supportive of my career in finance. She had her own ambitions and goals. She was close to her family. She had a great group of friends. She fit into my life perfectly. After 2 years of dating, I proposed, took her to the place where we'd had our first date, got down on one knee, asked her to spend the rest of her life with me. She cried and said yes, and I thought that was the beginning of our happily ever after. We planned the wedding for 2 years. Megan was very involved in every detail. She picked the venue, a beautiful old church, followed by a reception at a vineyard. She chose the flowers, the music, the menu. I showed up and approved things and wrote checks, but she was the visionary behind everything. Our families got along great. My parents loved Megan. Her parents welcomed me like a son. We'd have holiday dinners together, birthday celebrations, normal family stuff. Everything pointed to a perfect future. Looking back now, I can see things I missed. The way Megan was sometimes distant after trips with her girlfriends. How she guarded her phone more than seemed necessary. The late nights she claimed were work emergencies, but seemed to happen pretty regularly. But I trusted her completely. I never questioned anything because I had no reason to doubt the woman I loved. The week before the wedding was chaos in the best way. Family arriving from out of town, last-minute details to finalize, rehearsal dinner to host. Megan was stressed, but seemed happy, excited about becoming my wife. The night before the wedding, Megan stayed at her parents' house. Tradition, she said. She didn't want me to see her before the ceremony. We'd have our first look at the altar when she walked down the aisle. I stayed at my apartment with my grooms. We had a few drinks, played poker, kept it low-key. I went to bed around midnight thinking about how in less than 24 hours, Megan would be my wife. The morning of the wedding was a blur of preparations. Getting dressed, photos with my groomsmen, arriving at the church early to greet guests. Everything was going according to plan. The church was beautiful. White flowers everywhere, soft music playing, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. 200 of our closest friends and family filled the pews. My parents were in the front row, my dad looking proud, my mom already crying. I stood at the altar with my best man Derek beside me. My palms were sweating, my heart was racing. But it was good nervousness, excited nervousness. I was about to marry the love of my life. The music changed, everyone stood. The church doors opened, and there was Megan. She looked absolutely stunning in her white dress, a long veil trailing behind her. Her father walked beside her, both of them smiling. She was carrying a bouquet of white roses. She looked like an angel. She walked down the aisle toward me, and I felt tears forming in my eyes. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. She reached the altar. Her father kissed her cheek and placed her hand in mine. I squeezed it gently. She squeezed back. The officiant began the ceremony. He talked about love and commitment and the journey we were embarking on together. I barely heard him. I was too focused on Megan, on her eyes, on the fact that in a few minutes she'd be my wife. We got to the vows. I went first. I talked about meeting her at that party, about knowing from the first night that she was special, about how excited I was to spend my life with her. Megan was crying. So were half the guests. Even Derek looked a little misty. Then it was Megan's turn. She opened her mouth to speak, and that's when the church doors burst open. Everyone turned around. A man was standing in the doorway. Tall, dark hair, maybe early 30s. He looked like he'd been drinking. His shirt was untucked. His hair was messy. He was breathing hard, like he'd been running. I don't know who he was. I'd never seen him before in my life. Megan, he said, her name like a plea. Don't do this. You promised. Megan's face went white. Her hand gripped mine, so tight it hurt. The officiant looked confused. Excuse me, sir. This is a private ceremony. The man started walking down the aisle. Guess we're murmuring, turning to each other, trying to figure out what was happening. You said you loved me, the man continued. You said you were going to leave him. You were with me last night. You promised you'd run away with me. Instead of going through with this, I felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. I turned to Megan. What is he talking about? She was crying, but not the happy tears from before. These were panicked tears. Ryan, I can explain what? Who is this guy? The man reached the front of the church. He looked at me with something like pity. She's been with me for over a year. I'm not some random guy. I'm her boyfriend. I stared at him, then at Megan, then back at him. That's insane. We've been together for 4 years. We're getting married right now. He pulled out his phone and showed me photos. Megan and him together. At restaurants, at his apartment, at what looked like a beach vacation. Recent photos from weeks ago. She told me you two were basically over, he said, that she was only going through with the wedding because of the deposits and the family pressure. She said once it was done, she'd file for divorce and we'd be together. Megan, I said, my voice shaking. Tell me he's lying. She couldn't look at me. Her mascara was running. She was shaking. It's complicated, she whispered. Complicated. Are you sleeping with this guy? She didn't answer, which was an answer. The church had erupted into chaos. Guests were standing, talking over each other. My mother was crying. Megan's mother had her hand over her mouth in shock. My groomsmen looked ready to fight someone. Megan's bridesmaids were frozen in horror. How long? I asked Megan, how long have you been seeing him? About a year, she said quietly. A year. We'd been engaged for 2 years. She'd started seeing him a year ago. Half our engagement she'd been cheating on me. Were you with him last night? The night before our wedding? She nodded almost imperceptibly. I felt like I was going to be sick. She'd been with another man the night before she was supposed to marry me. While I was at my apartment dreaming about our future, she was with him. I stepped back from the altar, took my hands away from hers. This wedding's over, I said. Ryan, please. Megan reached for me. I love you. This was a mistake. I chose you? I'm here, aren't I? You chose me. You were with him last night. You told him you were going to run away with him. I didn't mean it. I was confused. I was going to end it with him after the wedding. After the wedding. So you were going to marry me while still seeing him? She had no answer. The man, the boyfriend, spoke up. She texted me this morning, said she wasn't sure if she could go through with this. I thought that meant she was coming to me. When she didn't show up, I came here to stop it. You texted him this morning, on our wedding day. I was having doubts, Megan said. I needed to talk to someone. So you texted your boyfriend. Not your bridesmaids, not your mom, your boyfriend. I looked around at the chaos in the church, at my family, at her family, at 200 people who'd come to celebrate our love, at the flowers and the decorations and the months of planning. I looked at Megan, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd trusted completely, the woman who'd been living a double life for a year. I turned and walked down the aisle, past the guests, past the confused faces, past the man who'd just destroyed everything. I pushed through the church doors and kept walking. My best man, Derek, caught up to me in the parking lot. Ryan, wait, what do you need? I need to get out of here. Okay, let's go. Derek drove me to his apartment. I sat on his couch in my tuxedo and stared at the wall. I couldn't process what had just happened. An hour ago, I was about to be married. Now my relationship was over in the most public, humiliating way possible. My phone was blowing up. Texts from family members, from friends, from people at the wedding. I turned it off. I couldn't deal with any of it. Megan showed up at Derek's apartment a few hours later, still in her wedding dress, mascara smeared, looking destroyed. Please talk to me, she begged through the door. Please, let me explain. Derek looked at me. I shook my head. He told her to leave. She stayed outside for over an hour crying and knocking. Eventually, Derek called her parents to come get her. Over the next few days, the full story came out. Megan had met the guy whose name was Tyler at a work conference about 14 months ago. They'd started texting, then meeting up. She claimed it was just emotional at first, but it became physical about a year ago. She said she loved both of us, that she couldn't choose that she kept putting off ending it with either of us because she didn't want to hurt anyone. So instead, she hurt everyone in the most spectacular way possible. I learned from her bridesmaids that some of them had suspected something. They'd seen her texting someone. She seemed too happy to be texting. They'd noticed her being secretive, but none of them had said anything to me. Tyler, the boyfriend, reached out to me a few days later, apologized for how he'd handled it. Said he didn't know she was actually going to go through with the wedding until that morning. He thought she was going to call it off. When she didn't, he panicked. "You knew she was engaged," I said. "You knew she was supposed to marry someone else." She told me it was basically over, that the wedding was just for show, and you believed her? I loved her. I believed what I wanted to believe. I could relate to that more than I wanted to admit. The aftermath was brutal. We had to cancel a reception. All that food, all that planning, wasted. My parents had spent a fortune on this wedding. Megan's parents were humiliated. The photos of her in the dress she wore to almost marry me while cheating on me were everywhere. Friends took sides. Most took mine, but some, especially mutual friends, tried to stay neutral. I couldn't handle neutral. If you weren't angry at what she did, you weren't on my side. I had to move out of our shared apartment. Couldn't stay there, surrounded by memories of a relationship that was apparently half fake. Derek let me crash with him while I found a new place. Megan tried to contact me for months. Long emails explaining her side, apologizing, begging for a chance to make things right. I never responded. She said she'd broken up with Tyler. Said she realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Said if I could forgive her, we could start over. But how do you start over with someone who was sleeping with another man the night before your wedding? Who texted that man on the morning she was supposed to marry you, who planned to keep seeing him even after becoming your wife? You can't. Some betrayals are too big to come back from. It's been 18 months since that day. 18 months since I stood at an altar and watched my future collapse. I'm doing better now. I moved to a new city, started a new job, built a new life. I don't think about Megan every day anymore. Just most days dating again seemed impossible at first. How do you trust anyone after what happened? How do you believe someone when they say they love you when the last person who said it was lying to your face while sleeping with someone else? But I've started trying. Going on dates, being open to possibilities. It's slow and it's hard, but I'm making progress. I heard through friends that Megan and Tyler didn't work out. Apparently, once the forbidden excitement of the affair was gone, there wasn't much left. They broke up about 6 months after my wedding disaster. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sad. Mostly, I just felt empty about the whole thing. What haunts me most is the performance. She'd been planning that wedding for 2 years while cheating on me for one of them. She'd picked the flowers and the music and the dress while seeing another man. She'd stood in that church ready to say vows she was already breaking. How do you do that? How do you look someone in the eyes and promise forever while having a boyfriend waiting for you to run away with him? I'll never understand it. And maybe I don't need to. Maybe some people are just capable of compartmentalization that I'll never be able to comprehend. What I do know is that Tyler showing up at that church, as devastating as it was, saved me. If he hadn't interrupted, I would have married her. I would have built a life with a woman who was lying to me. I would have eventually found out some other way. Probably worse. At least this way, it ended before it really began. Before we had kids, before we merged our finances, before divorce would have been even more complicated. Silver linings, I guess. Small ones. But I'll take what I can get. So I want to ask you something. If someone interrupted your wedding claiming to be your partner's secret boyfriend, would you believe them immediately or think it was some kind of cruel prank? And if you found out they were telling the truth, could you ever forgive your partner? Because I've been asked if I regret not hearing Megan out, and I'm still not sure of the answer. If a stranger burst into your wedding claiming to be your partner's boyfriend, how would you react? Would you stop the wedding immediately or assume it was some kind of mistake? And do you think the boyfriend did the right thing by interrupting? Or should he have stayed quiet and let her live with her choice? I really want to hear your thoughts because I'm still processing all of it.